Hello and welcome to this broadcast of Running on Love with God. My name's Lori Michelle, and I was awakened to the voice of our Creator in April of 2009. He said, go get pen and paper and start writing this down. And I listened. And now, over 9 years later, I'm sharing his voice and his wisdom. And that's what these programs are about. Tonight's program is about emotions. And I entitled this program, Which Human Emotions Are Good, Bad, or Ugly? Are there emotions we must learn to avoid? And I posted this picture, and this is how I want to start the program with you, Anna Marie. Hello, Anna Marie.
Oh, hi.
By the way, she's in Chicago and I'm in Israel, so we're global. And so here's a picture that I posted, and it says, warning, follow your eyes or heart, and you'll be led astray. Reach for God instead. And you see little emojis, happy, anxious, sad, angry. And the reason I use these words, which is a little unclear possibly to most people, is it comes from the idea from a special prayer that Jews all over the world pray every day called the Shema. And in this prayer, there's a line that says, and don't follow after your eyes or your heart by which you're led astray. Follow my commandments. I am the Lord your God. So I used those words in this graphic and said, don't follow after your eyes or heart by which you're led astray, and choose God instead. And the reason I said that, and the reason I pointed to that prayer, is that prayer teaches us that emotions that we feel can lead us off the right path. In every moment, we have a choice between good and evil. And if we allow our emotions to intervene, undoubtedly, we're going to choose the wrong thing. We have to remember that God is real, and He gave us commandments and laws and how to cope in this physical world, and we should never forget God. So with that, I'll embellish more and answer more questions.
Okay, the title of the show is Which Human Emotions Are Good, Bad, or Ugly? Are there emotions we must learn to avoid? So it sounds like like the negative emotions we should avoid, like anger, but yet there's all kinds of evidence of God being angry in the Torah.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, that's not really a very good question.
I hear you. And I purposefully named the program Which Human Emotions Are Good, Bad, or Ugly, because the answer is they're all good. They can be ugly, and they could be negative if you choose to make decisions through emotion. I posted a Q&A video, is fear good or evil? And the answer in my Q&A video was, it's both. It can be both. It's good because it's an indication that something in your environment, in your life, in your world is amiss. Something's wrong. That's what our emotions are. We're spirit, so we have emotions. We have many emotions. And those emotions are a Geiger counter, really. They're a barometer, and they tell us when something's good or maybe when something's wrong. And we're supposed to sit up at attention and think, what am I supposed to do now? If you choose through fear or anger, it can become very ugly. And we see this all over the world. We see acts of terror, people choosing to make decisions out of anger or hatred or jealousy, all of these emotions. Emotions are good because they prompt us. But if they prompt us and we choose the wrong thing, they become ugly and evil.
So let's use fear as an example. Whenever I'm trying to do something new, I always have an element of fear. Is that something that you should try to avoid, feeling fearful, or is there different kinds of fear?
You can't avoid emotions. You can control them by the things you think, and what you do. We are emotions. We're a bundle of emotions. We're spirit. And the emotions range from ecstasy and joy, which we want to feel all the time, which is not normal to be in a state of ecstasy all the time. You would get nothing done. To despair and depression and futility, and everything in between. So, what was your question? I'm in the weeds.
Whenever I'm trying something new, there's an element of fear.
Okay, so that's good because you have inhibitions, you have anxiety, so you need to explore your emotions. Where's this coming from? And the important thing when you feel fear or anxiety is not to allow those feelings to immobilize you. So there's ways. Let's choose fear. You're doing something new and you're feeling fear. It can be empowering. You need to push yourself. So if you feel a little fear, you're branching out into something new. And doing something new is good. You're stretching yourself. And you're going to accomplish more than you accomplished the day before because you're not doing the same old thing. So a little bit of fear is good. Fear that immobilizes you, it makes you unable to think or do anything, is negative. So you need to examine that. And then you need to choose a productive way to handle that fear. And that's what I said in my post, is that the best way to handle fear or these emotions that can take control over you is to choose God in every moment. Meaning, he gave us rules, he gave us a rule book, and he gave us commandments. And we need to have him front and center in every decision that we make every day.
Are there emotions we should avoid?
He says no. You can avoid. What you should be avoiding is deciding through those emotions. So if you feel fear or you feel anxiety, you have to measure, are you feeling too anxious and too fearful that you can't get out of bed and you can't go to work and you're not showering and you're dysfunctional? Okay? So I'm going to say something that probably shocks a lot of people because I'm very anti the mental health establishment. I would tell anyone in that situation who is completely dysfunctional to see a doctor and get medication. It's really important that you stabilize yourself if you're completely dysfunctional and get to a place where someone can talk to you, that you can calm down enough, that you can rationalize and figure out where is this coming from and learn how to cope with whatever is bothering you. If you're fearful or you're anxious, it's coming from something. It's your soul telling you, warning, warning, something is wrong. And that's where you need to go, is your soul. Your soul comes from God. You need to reach for God. And through God, you will come up with a better path and good answers of how to get back on track.
You said that we will discuss human emotions and their God-given purpose. What is that purpose?
It's a alarm. It's a message. It's your soul talking to you. It's God talking through you to bring your attention to something in your life that needs attention in that moment. So let's give real examples. Let's say you're depressed, right? You're depressed, you're sad, you are functioning. You don't need medication, you don't need a doctor, but you're just feeling down. It's your soul saying something's wrong. So what do you do in that moment when something is wrong? You evaluate. But the source of depression for me is when my life is not on track, going in the right direction, and there are roadblocks thrown everywhere around me. I need to see who those roadblocks are, if they're a person or a thing, and I need to work to remove them. But all the while I'm working on things and outside of myself to remedy what's bothering me, the most important place for me to go is to go inside and talk to Hashem, God, my relationship with God. We're taught in Torah to wake up reaching for God and to go to sleep reaching for God. God, Hashem, should be front and center in our lives all day long. And he gave us a prescription for a blessed and stable and joyful life. He gave us things to do throughout the day, throughout the week, and throughout our lives that keep us steady and stable and joyful.
You said to be aware or not to follow your eyes or your heart. What about following your head? What about using your intellect to try to make decisions when you're feeling emotions?
It's all encompassing, and when everything works in unison, you see, you have a soul, and your soul's really what's thinking for you, believe it or not. You have a brain, and it's a storehouse, and it says signals, intellect, but your intellect, your true intellect, comes from your soul. Everybody thinks it comes from here. And this is just the powerhouse and the wiring, the power plant that makes everything function and click together physically. It's our physical bottom. But we have a soul that knows things that our physical body doesn't know. And the proof of this is you'll see 2- and 3-year-old children who can sit down at a piano and play Mozart, right? Mm-hmm. It didn't come from their brain. It came from some part of their soul that has more wisdom than our flesh. So you said, do you use your intellect? Well, it's all like this. It's all together. We have our cues from our body. Our body gives us cues. It gives us physical inclinations that trigger emotions like hunger. And then hunger, oh no, I'm hungry, could lead to fear. Oh no, I'm going to starve. And it's one thought after another thought after another thought. And then our intellect kicks in, our thoughts and ideas. And that's where we have to control our thoughts and ideas, because we can't allow our emotions to run amok and lead. It's like the tail wagging the dog, so to speak.
Does God have emotions?
Oh, yes. He does. He's wonderful. We come from him. We are a little piece of God, all of us. But he is the fullest extent of every human emotion and the most perfect measure of everything. His anger is raw, but he never makes decisions out of anger or love or joy. He doesn't make decisions out of emotion, but he feels all of them. He makes decisions out of knowledge. He knows. He just knows. I asked him once, do you think? And he says, yes. But he knows. It's unknowable to us. He knows everything. And right. You feel when you're speaking to him, and I hope one day you speak to him the way I do, you just feel the surety, the certainness in everything he says. He just knows. But I used to be the eternal optimist, and then my life fell apart. And now the glass is half empty. You know, we're going to die. And I say this every day. The rockets are falling. I have the red alert on my iPhone. And the other day, there were 9 red alerts. They're dropping bombs right across the water here. And so I'm screaming, we're going to die. No, we're not. Imagine God saying, Hashem saying that to you. No, Lori, we're not. I said, but there's going to be a war. He says, yes, there is. And so my reaction is normal, human. Oh, but there's going to be a war. He says, yes, calm down. There's going to be a war. Everybody knows there's going to be a war. And being fearful and panicking is not going to make it go away or stop. Calm down. So my reaction is natural, fear. But my response to the fear is, Hashem! And he calms me down. Now, I have the added advantage that I hear him in language, and I feel him holding me. But before I heard him and felt him, I did the same thing and received the same comfort internally. I had this knowing, like the little child who knows Mozart at 2 years old. I knew I was being watched, and I know God's real. No one taught me. And I used to pray all the time, and it would calm me down.
So in terms of learning how to control your emotions, reaching for God in prayer is the number one. Is it the only way? Are there other things you can do?
He's given us his Torah. He's given us commandments. He's given us a prescription for our way of life. Literally, there are things that you can do to bring him front and center in your life all day long and all night long. There's no reason why you can't have reminders. Jewish people have their reminders on their doorposts. You can have reminders. You can reach for him. You can pray to him. You can say blessings. I say thank you all the time. Every time I put a morsel of food or water through my lips, I say a blessing. I say thank you. He's always on my mind, always. And it's very calming and it's very relieving. So if you suffer from anxiety and depression, the biggest blessing you can give to yourself is to release the pressure off your shoulders and say, you're not in charge. It's his world that you're living in, and he has blessed you with this life. And he takes the bricks right off your shoulders. You can put your pressure and your anxiety and fear on his shoulders. That's what he's there for.
Okay, can you also share your joy?
Absolutely. Your joy?
Yeah.
I reach for Hashem, God, in joy, in fear, in laughter, in every emotion. You name the emotion, I reach for him. I thank him. Even in my despair, and this is another thing about despair and anxiety and fear, I understand now that even terrible things like war and terrorist acts and the horrible, another school shooting in America on Friday. It's just horrible.
Yeah.
But I understand that God is real, and there are people who become very depressed and think there can't be such a thing as God in this world for these things to be happening. But I assure you, he's real, and he allows these things to happen for a purpose. And everything that comes into being has a divine purpose for our good. Even the worst of worst tragedies. It's hard to fathom, but when you have full faith in our Creator, Amunah, it's called in Hebrew, you know that God's real, God is everywhere, God is involved in everything that we do, but you also know that every single thing, even tragedies, come into this world with his approval for our good, for a purpose, even when it looks the opposite.
Let's talk a little bit about people who are extra sensitive to emotions. And you mentioned about, is it helpful? Yeah. Is it helpful to build up walls and to toughen yourself up? So what do you think?
Well, I had that rap growing up. I was very sensitive. I was told I was moody and too sensitive, and I cried too easily. I had a first grade teacher who was mean to me and used to terrorize me in class just to toughen me up because she told my mother I cry too much. I'm much too sensitive. And she was taking it on as a personal mission to toughen me up. And I'm 58. I remember her. I was 5 years old in first grade. We started school young. It didn't work. I'm strong, but I'm not tough. And I cry easily. And Hashem says that my sensitivity is what we're meant to be. We're meant to be sensitive human beings who have compassion and feel for each other. And I'm also unfiltered. I don't filter. I have my emotions. I let you know what I'm thinking. And I was told by many people in my life who cared about me, who told me, Lori, you need to build up walls. You're too transparent and you can't show them that you bleed. My father used to say that. Don't show them that you bleed. And Hashem says, no, you do show. You show your emotions, you be yourself, and you reveal who you truly are, which is a spirit who cares, who's sensitive and compassionate.
So boys should cry too?
Well, yes, but but nobody wants to see everybody crying all the time. I cry. You want to see people crying appropriately. And I actually do appreciate when I see a man cry. But I don't want to see, I would appreciate it if President Trump didn't cry every day in public. It would make me feel like, oh no, we're going to die. I like a little strength, but it would make us feel very endearing to him, I think, if we saw him choke back emotion. We've seen this, leaders choking back emotion. They're human. That's what we are. We are emotion.
And yet you just said we've seen them choke it back, so we appreciate when they don't let it out.
Well, it's not about not necessarily letting it out. It's meaning what I said before, controlling our emotions through the right channel, giving our remorse, our tears to God, so that we don't have to use these emotions on each other all the time. We can function and be independent and reach for Him. There are people that I had a lovely coach one day who called people emotional pariahs. I love her. It was a great expression. There are people who are so needy emotionally that you feel like they're got their fangs in your neck. We all have our stuff. We all have our problems. We all have our anxieties and fears. So we don't want to dump all of these emotions on everybody we know all the time. It's what He's here for. And that's why I have said the best thing you can do with all of these emotions, and we have many, is to give it to Him. He's the biggest and strongest energy in all the universe. And that's what He desires. He wants you to give it to Him. That doesn't mean you can't give it to each other. A
Right.
little bit. But you have to be aware that we all have our emotions to deal with. We can't handle everybody dumping their emotions on us too.
Are there emotions we should learn to avoid?
It's, as I said before, it's not avoiding. Well, he just said yes. I was just trying to think, is there an emotion that you would avoid? He just said jealousy.
Okay.
There are nasty feelings that people get. But you know where it comes from? It comes from the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination that I talk to you about every week. Ego. I don't have those emotions. That's why I just let them all out. I don't have feelings of jealousy or animosity. Those emotions are very negative, but they're really not true to our true nature of who we are. Who you really are, Anna Marie, is never jealous. Jealousy and animosity comes from being concealed. Your soul is concealed in this vessel, and you think you're separate from everyone else. And jealousy comes from, well, if she has millions, that's less for me. Why does she have that and I don't have that? That's not a true godly energy, because we all have what we have. So there are emotions. He just said, yes, there are, that are negative, but they come from a different source. They don't come from Hashem. They don't come from your spirit of who you are. What you come from is Him, and your soul is pure goodness.
If you start feeling twinges of those negative emotions, how can you train yourself to get to a different space?
Well, those emotions that come from the Yetzirah is evil, and you need to become more cognizant of your choices and your thoughts. And I've spoken to you about this too, Anna Marie, that every thought that comes into your head doesn't come from you. Believe it or not, it comes from other people, and the Yetzirah is this little nasty voice that puts ideas into your head, like your neighbor just got a new Maserati, and why can't I afford a Maserati? That's not Anna Marie. Anna Marie doesn't even want a Maserati, but that's Yetzirah, and it's a lure, and it takes you away from God, Hashem, goodness. And so there's the answer, I said again, and I'm going to be a broken record and sound old because there's no broken records, but we need to reach for God and His commandments, because those energies are not of God. So you reach for prayer, you reach for psalms, you reach for Hashem, who's never derisive or jealous or any of those energies. He's pure positive love.
So how can you know when it's the evil inclination talking versus yourself? How can you get that awareness?
It's a downward energy that pulls you down, makes you angry, makes you feel okay. So your question was, how do you have a better handle on where these emotions are coming from and if they're good or evil?
Yes.
Did I restate that?
Yes.
Okay. So that'll be the last question. When it's a negative energy coming from a negative source, it's a downward pull, and it makes you feel angry. It makes you feel more pensive, more anxious. You have to use those energies, those emotions, as a Geiger counter to check yourself, and then understand, what kind of thoughts am I thinking that's making me feel anxious in this moment? And analyze, is it coming from a source of, God forbid, jealousy? Because jealousy doesn't come from Him. And it's a huge red flag and a warning that you're veering and you're going away from God Himself. So you need to pray in that moment. Please, Hashem, please, I don't want to be jealous of my neighbor. I know that what she has nothing to do with me. And you ask Him to please release these horrible negative emotions from you and work to heal them. Work on better, more productive ways to use your mind and your energy, which you said before, your intellect, and choose better thoughts and focus on positive things instead of negative things. Because what we focus on expands for us. So if you're focused on what you don't have, that's going to expand for you. If you focus on what you do have and what you're grateful for and what you desire, things will open up for you. But first and foremost, God's number one. He has broad shoulders, the biggest shoulders in the universe. So don't be an emotional pariah. Don't throw your stuff in other people's directions. People are there to help you. Let them help you. But give your heavy load and your baggage to Hashem. He can help you carry them. And He will carry you through the storm. I promise you, I've been through it. And He's awesome. So God bless you. Go to my website, lauriemichelle.net. There's lots of programs there. There'll be more. This is the work of world peace. If we learn how to handle our emotions and stay positive and reach for Hashem, we can heal ourselves and we'll heal the world. God bless you. May there be world peace in our time. God bless you.